The town of Ashwick sat quietly between rolling hills and thick forests, a place where life moved at a slow and predictable pace. Its streets were lined with small cottages, local shops closed early, and the sound of church bells was often the loudest noise to disturb the stillness. People trusted one another so deeply that locks were rarely used, and crime was considered something that happened far away in the cities. It was this sense of safety that made what happened one autumn morning so horrifying and unforgettable. A farmer named Thomas Bennett rose before sunrise, as he always did, to check on his cattle by the riverbank. The water was colder than usual, carrying fallen leaves and branches downstream. At first, he thought the large object floating near the shore was just another piece of debris. But as the current pulled it closer, he noticed the shape of a battered suitcase, its surface scratched and waterlogged from drifting. He waded into the water to pull it out, expecting to find nothing more than ruined clothing or household junk. When Thomas dragged the suitcase to the bank and forced it open, what he saw sent him stumbling backward. Inside was a collection of human remains, carefully wrapped in cloth as though someone had tried to hide them with precision. The air seemed to freeze around him as he realized this was no accident. Whoever had left it there had done so deliberately, placing horror into the heart of a peaceful town. By mid-morning, word of the grisly discovery had spread across Ashwick. Crowds gathered by the river, whispering in shock, unable to believe that something so dark could touch their lives. In a place where nothing ever happened, something unspeakable had now changed everything forever. The victim was soon identified as Evelyn Moore, a young schoolteacher whose gentle nature had made her a beloved figure in Ashwick. She lived in a modest brick house on the edge of town and was often seen walking to the schoolyard with a stack of books pressed tightly against her chest. To her students, she was patient and kind, always encouraging them with warm smiles. To her neighbors, she was quiet but dependable, the type of person who watered plants for others when they were away. That was why her sudden disappearance just 3 days before the suitcase was found had already left people uneasy. Now, with her remains confirmed, unease turned into shock and grief. Investigators began piecing together the final days of Evelyn's life. Bank records revealed that she had withdrawn large sums of money in the weeks leading up to her death, an action completely out of character for someone who lived so simply. No one knew why she needed it or who it was meant for. At the same time, multiple neighbors recalled seeing a black car parked outside her home late at night, sometimes with its engine running but its lights off. The sight was unsettling, but no one thought to report it until after she vanished. Her colleagues at the school were equally puzzled. Evelyn had never hinted at trouble in her personal life, though she had grown quieter in recent months, sometimes distracted during lessons. Police found no signs of forced entry at her home, no struggle inside, but her diary revealed cryptic notes about feeling watched and unsafe. These fragments of fear suggested she had been carrying a secret, something dangerous enough to bring her life to a violent end. Ashwick's quiet teacher was not who everyone thought she was. As investigators searched for answers, suspicion quickly turned toward 3 individuals whose connections to Evelyn raised troubling questions. The first was Daniel, her former boyfriend. Their relationship had ended months earlier, but neighbors remembered the arguments that once erupted between them. Daniel was known for jealousy that often turned into bursts of anger, and though Evelyn had cut ties, whispers spread that he had struggled to let go. He lived alone in a small apartment on the edge of town, and when questioned, he admitted he hadn't seen Evelyn in weeks. Still, the bruised history between them made him impossible to ignore. The second figure was Margaret, a fellow teacher at the school. While Evelyn was well-liked, Margaret's relationship with her was complicated. Investigators learned of heated disputes between the two over missing money from the school's fundraising accounts. Evelyn had reportedly confronted Margaret about the irregularities, leading to tension that did not go unnoticed by staff. If Evelyn had proof of wrongdoing, Margaret would have had reason to silence her before the truth surfaced. The third suspect, Richard Hale, cast an even larger shadow. A respected businessman, he was considered one of Ashwick's most influential residents. Outwardly, he supported local charities and presented himself as a pillar of the community. But whispers suggested darker connections, links to organized crime and questionable business deals that extended far beyond the town's borders. Investigators soon discovered Evelyn's name had appeared in documents tied to one of his companies. What unsettled the police most was a diary recovered from Evelyn's home. In shaky handwriting, she described the constant sense of being followed, the sound of footsteps outside her window, and the feeling that someone had been inside her house. Each suspect seemed capable, yet the fear Evelyn described suggested a threat greater than anyone first imagined. The investigation deepened when officers uncovered a hidden folder tucked away in Evelyn's bedroom closet. Inside were documents detailing a series of suspicious land deals in Ashwick. They showed that property had been purchased under false names, then resold at inflated prices, funneling money into secret accounts. At the center of these papers was Richard Hale, the town's admired businessman. For investigators, this discovery shifted the entire direction of the case. Evelyn, it seemed, had stumbled upon something much bigger than herself. But the evidence was not as clear as it first appeared. While the papers linked Hale to fraud, investigators also uncovered something even more unsettling. On one of the cloths used to wrap Evelyn's remains, forensic tests revealed her own fingerprints. The revelation stunned the team. It raised disturbing questions. Had Evelyn been forced to handle the materials used in her own disposal? Or had someone planted her fingerprints to mislead the investigation? Meanwhile, more secrets began to surface. Surveillance footage from a nearby road showed the same black car neighbors had described circling Evelyn's neighborhood days before she vanished. Its plates were traced to a rental agency, but the driver had used a false identity, leaving yet another trail that seemed designed to confuse. As the case grew murkier, the focus shifted once again to Evelyn herself. Perhaps she had been more than just an innocent schoolteacher. Was she quietly gathering evidence against Hale, preparing to expose his crimes? Or had she become entangled in something deeper, willingly or not? The lines between victim and investigator blurred, and the discovery of her diary notes about fear and footsteps seemed more chilling now than ever. Evelyn had uncovered a dangerous truth, and it was clear someone powerful wanted it buried with her. Months passed with the town of Ashwick gripped in fear and speculation, until a single anonymous tip redirected the entire investigation. The caller claimed that evidence of Evelyn's murder, and perhaps much more, was hidden in an abandoned farmhouse just outside the town. When officers arrived, the place looked long forgotten, its windows shattered, its roof sagging under years of neglect. Yet in the cellar, behind a false wall, they uncovered something chilling, a locked wooden chest. Inside were dozens of items that stripped away any illusion of Ashwick's safety. Photographs of Evelyn, taken secretly from a distance, filled the chest. They showed her walking to school, sitting by her window, even shopping in town. The level of surveillance was obsessive. Alongside the photos were personal belongings from other missing women, scarves, jewelry, notebooks, items families had reported years earlier but never recovered. What had begun as one murder investigation now revealed a disturbing pattern of stalking, abduction, and death. The evidence tied back to Richard Hale, the man who had always appeared untouchable. Hidden beneath his polished image was the life of a predator who had used his wealth and influence to keep suspicion away from himself. Evelyn's mistake had been uncovering his fraudulent land deals, which pulled her directly into his path. Unlike the others, she had discovered his secrets, and for that, she was silenced. When Hale was finally arrested, the shock was overwhelming. Many in Ashwick had admired him, some had worked for him, and others had trusted him with their livelihoods. To see him unmasked as a monster shattered the town's sense of identity. The river suitcase had been the first thread, but what unraveled was far darker, a web of lies, fear, and cruelty hidden in plain sight. Ashwick would never be the same again.